clinicians, psychologists typically tend to look at the how, right? How does something work under the hood? What are the mechanisms? And what evolution does is it allows you to probe what created the environment by which those mechanisms came into existence. It's like, you know, if you're a mechanic on a car, if you can possibly, you know, fix a car if it's broken, but if you understand how the car was made and why it was made that way, you might even be a better mechanic. Taking an evolutionary standpoint, I think there's so much focus on sleep duration and sleep quality. Am I getting enough sleep? I think we need to dial that back, because the more basic answer is, how linked are you to your circadian rhythm? So long before the first animal slept, the first organism, we're talking like eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells, 500 million years ago, long before sleep was a thing, animals, organisms were timing behavioral output in their environment to maximize the likelihood of success in reproduction. There's just so many benefits to be able to predict the future, and that's what a circadian rhythm is doing. It's saying it's likely you need to do these functions when it's light outside, and you need to do these functions when it's dark outside. And that's a species-specific question, right? If you're a nocturnal animal, there might be a host of different functions, but the mechanisms are usually the same, and the circadian rhythm is the physiology underpinning is almost identical. For example, there's a worm called Platyrrhenes dumarelli, and it is a very, very primitive organism. We share a common ancestor maybe 300 million years ago, and it has this very tight circadian rhythm, circadian pattern. So during the night, it will actually, because it wants to avoid being eaten while it consumes at the top of the ocean, it will time it to where it is close to the top of the surface of the water during nighttime, and then it will float back down during the daytime, and this is literally regulated by the same hormone that regulates our sleep-wake activity, which is melatonin. So this is, when I think about how to coach people to try and improve their sleep, you got to start with the basics, and the basics is, how is your exposure to your environment? Are you getting out enough? Are your light cues the correct cues? Are your temperature cues, do they mirror outside? Do they mirror this natural oscillation? Or are you buffering them because we go from office building to office building to office building, home in front of the TV, right? So I think that's the fundamental approach. In the current situation, the pandemic, when we think about immune strength and immune function, it's really critical. When we think about vitamin D and exposure, like getting out there, getting your circadian rhythm cued into your environment, and also a natural source of vitamin D, sunlight. And a lot of really promising studies have shown this link between people who are vitamin D deficient and who have the appropriate levels of vitamin D for their bodies and their ability to fight off COVID. I mean, this is a no-brainer to me. It's not a surprise, but like, these are really, it's vitamin D supplements are not expensive. Like, these are things that we should be talking about in a broader public health sense, along with all the other things public health officials are recommending, right? So when you talk about the functional benefits of sleep, it's one of those funny things. Whenever you read a sleep scientific journal and article within a peer-reviewed journal, they'll still open with something like, on the very first sentence, the function of sleep remains a mystery, right? And really, that's sort of like, we have a really good idea of what the functions of sleep are. It's just that they're so complex and they're so myriad, and they cover such a broad swath of things, from memory consolidation to immune regulation, to your ability to be able to interact with other human beings. Whether or not you repel people or attract people is a function of how much sleep you've had the night before. I mean, it's an actual sociological effect. So there's a lot of benefits